Hello everyone, I'm glad to see you on my channel, where I talk about what, how and why, intuitively about art. In today's video I want to discuss 3 paintings that I completed in 3 weeks. To be honest, it sounds a bit crazy to me. Some small oil works I can finish in a couple of days, but the pieces featured in this video I don't consider easy. By the way, please watch until the end to see what happened to this beautiful clean palette at the beginning of the video. All 3 canvases were started by me earlier and had already made their way onto my long list of unfinished works. A couple of times I seriously tried to tackle this list, but I never seemed to have enough time. New ideas flood into my mind at the speed of light, and it's difficult to return to paintings that have already gathered layers of dust. So, finishing 3 paintings that I had already started in 3 weeks was quite an accomplishment, and I managed to do all this unconsciously, because at the moment I'm mentally preparing for a huge project. This was some kind of productive procrastination. I named this first piece First or Last. A guy and a girl swimming in the ocean, looking at each other. Is it dawn or sunset? Are these two familiar with each other, or on the contrary, they are seeing each other for the first time? Maybe it's love at first sight, or a bitter farewell. So many ideas for interpreting this work makes it truly special for me. I didn't want to depict all the details to preserve the ephemeral nature of the moment. The color palette changed from day to day, but the only aspect I wanted to keep was the complex dark color varying between caput mortuum and burnt sienna, with a touch of red. It's the color of the past, memories that you hold dear in your heart. Since the cool color palette resonates with me more, it was challenging to resist adding blue tones to the clouds or water. I envy those artists who don't challenge themselves and paint only in the style or palette that makes them most comfortable. I find it easier to work with blue and red colors, and most ideas initially come to my mind in this color scheme. Only after that do I carefully consider which colors to choose to make the painting more appealing. In my view, the presence of yellow and orange colors in the atmosphere adds a hint of romance. Even in the coldest winter, this painting radiates warmth and the sensation of sunlight on your skin. I redid the portrait of the girl about 4 or 5 times. I wasn't satisfied with the facial expression, the shades, or how the light fell on her. Everything was off. 2 days in a row I erased and painted her again. I desperately wanted to give up halfway. To this day it remains a mystery to me why and how I continued working on this painting despite the frustration and exhaustion. Since the work is composed of several photos found on internet, it made the process much more complex. I kept searching for references even when I was on the verge of completing the work. By the way, the idea came to me entirely by chance, literally in a second. The key word was falling star. If you look closely, you'll notice that the bright yellow spot in the sky unites the main characters of the canvas like an arc. I don't know how to express this more clearly in words, but I wanted to create a painting that tells and shows the emotions you feel when you accidentally gaze into someone's eyes, and the subtle electric charge runs through your entire body. It would be very interesting to know what exactly comes to your mind when you look at this canvas. Don't forget to share your opinion in the comments. I'll be looking forward to it. The second work out of three has quite a long history. I drew the sketch for this composition back in the distant year of 2020, when people were just starting to get used to the new way of life within four walls. I started painting this picture at home, then continued it in the theater workshop, and finally, in May 2022, it moved to my current studio. 3 years may not be such a long time, but it's not advisable to have such long intervals between layers of oil paint, as it can lead to cracks over time. In this work, I encountered a series of difficulties. Firstly, the canvas. A small digression: the canvases for all three paintings were manually primed back in the days when I was studying at the Academy of Arts. The canvas for this work has a fine texture, which I rarely work with, so I had to change my working method during the process. Thin layers of paint didn't give me the desired results. Instead, the brush slid over the canvas like on ice, which was frustrating. I had to interrupt more often just to calm my nerves. The solution came in a fit of quiet anger. I simply started using much more paint than usual. Perhaps for other artists this is the norm, but I prefer to create subtle transition with semi-transparent layers of paint. I don't enjoy working with paste. In addition to this, there was another moment. Initially, I planned to paint the concrete wall behind the main character in black and white gradient, adding only a few warm brown shades. But soon I realized that it would look too raw. I'm even afraid to start listing how many colors and shades I used to create the background of this painting. But in the process, the work began to look much better. Following the same principle, I painted the yellow shirt, the improvised table for the chess pieces. I thought that the shadow with lilac-violet shades would look much better than with brown. If you're wondering what did the artist want to say with this painting, there are several possible answers. Here's one of them. On the body of the guy there are 6 chess pieces, of which only one is white. The pieces are arranged in a certain order, from the pawn to the king as they move upwards towards the head. Thus, I wanted to indicate that our sexual needs are at the lowest level compared to intellectual ones. However, if you pay attention, the figure of the king, besides being white, lacks the crown in the form of a cross, which is characteristic for classic chess pieces. Meanwhile, the character in the painting is holding a glass of an alcohol beverage that is almost empty. We understand that the person is slightly drunk, but the chess pieces on his body still stand motionless. If he were to take a deep breath, they would fall. His thoughts are directed somewhere far away. He is so engrossed in them that he hardly moves. Sometimes, in an attempt to find balance within our souls, we must be alone with our thoughts. We need to try to be honest with ourselves about our desires and aspirations. Hearing your inner voice is difficult when there are many people around with their own needs. The period of the pandemic became a chance for me to hear my inner voice and understand many things about myself that were previously unknown to me. What do you see when you look at this painting? What thoughts come to your mind? The third and final painting, an open door leading to another open door, behind which is the door to my studio. First, I want to mention how surprised I was by the tremendous response this work received when I posted a 1-minute video of it on social media. I thought people would just pass by this painting, as had happened with other works. I can understand why this painting is dear to me and what strongly attracts me to it, but what evokes these feelings in others is still a mystery to me. It reminded me of when I first encountered the genre of everyday life in painting. Sketches and paintings on everyday topics are characteristic of any era. However, the recognized birth and development of this genre date back to the 7th century. In those years, as bourgeois society was emerging in the Netherlands, there arose a group of artists who boldly depicted the life of ordinary people without embellishments. Scenes of everyday life from rural huts, courtyards, urban taverns, and markets became increasingly popular during that time. The absence of photography prompted painters to capture as much of contemporary history as possible. Thanks to their paintings, people could learn how others lived. The winds of change of that time affected an increasing number of countries in Europe. As a result, the genre of everyday life spread to all corners of Europe. Many well-known painters began to pay attention to the lives of their unremarkable compatriots. Revolutionary tendencies inspired passionate artists to contribute to the fight for human rights. With their works, they exposed existing inequality and drew attention to the meager lives of the poor segments of the population. At the same time, many such paintings were songs of gratitude to the working people. They celebrated the significance of various trades, individual representatives, or entire sections of the population without whom the normal life of others would be simply inconceivable. Although there are no people in my work, no genre scenes, it still speaks about the life of the common people, as the interior is very old and the walls are not perfectly even. I wanted to name this work White Walls because in reality they are indeed white. The rays of the afternoon sun that illuminate the room change their color beyond recognition, creating an illusion of warmth and comfort. For me, this painting also symbolizes a small dream that I was able to fulfill. For a long time I struggled without having my own creative space, where I would have enough room for both small and large paintings. And even if it is located in an old house where there are many noisy neighbors nearby, it's cold in the winter and the floor creaks, I am still happy that I can create at my own place. There are days when I spend time there non-stop, but sometimes I don't show up for months, and that's okay. There's no need to force yourself if you feel any discomfort, but also there's no need to be afraid to start something new. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it really interesting and gained at least a drop of inspiration through it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll be waiting for you with new videos.